Hey, welcome. So the number one lesson today, I'm gonna just start with introducing myself in Spanish, and I'm going to very speak slowly so anybody can catch every single word, and I'm gonna just express myself, and I'm gonna break them down into pieces so you will get explanation of everything, so that you will understand everything, like about what I said. You will understand what it is Spanish is about, and how they word, how they order the words, what is the grammar, and every single things I will explain. But the point that I want to explain to you every single time, I probably will repeat this over and over and over again, because understanding what I'm doing, what is this method is all about, foundational idea of this method that I'm teaching you based on, is very important. So you will not need to understand everything, because I am going to present you more information than you would expect. I will present more information than any typical language teacher or any language school will present, because there is a reason behind, and there is a science behind. So that's what I'm going to explain you. So you do not need to understand every single thing. It's impossible. Like someone who just started learning language, to understand everything native speaker or somebody says, it's not impossible to understand everything. So that's not the point. The point is, I will prime your brain with more information than you could understand now, today. So your goal is to understand the bite. Pick something that you understood, even one word or one phrase or one structure or one grammatical thing that you understand per each day training. That is your goal. So you do not need to worry about anything, about understanding everything. That is not the point. The reason I'm giving you so much is to start priming your brain. Let your back office of your brain start working, start processing those information. So eventually there will be a light bulb turned on. But if you wait, or if I as a teacher wait to give those information to you to, I don't know, like weeks later or further in the future, then the progress that you could have made is going to be slowed down significantly. And this is almost like a reverse compounding. It's just it's the formula to slow learning, and that's not what you need. So, and that's not what this program is about. So I just wanted to explain you those things. And let me start introducing myself. Here goes. Me llamo Ryota. Soy de Japón. He vivido en los Estados Unidos por casi 20 años. Vivo en Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Tengo unos amigos que hablan español. Estudié español por mi cuenta. Okay, so this is probably enough for today, but I'm going to break down what I've just said, and explain, start explaining and then giving you grammatical information so that you will start understanding what I've just said. And you do not memorize or not even like understand. I was just gonna say entender, but like that means like understand. Okay, here entender means understand, but you don't need to understand everything. No tiene que entender todos, okay? But you just need to grab a bite. Just one word, just maybe one sentence, one phrase, and that's all I want you to get out of this lesson. And in 15 lessons, you're gonna grab 15 things, okay? But this is not just 15 things. And 15 things will be sufficient to speak, make a conversation with a native language speaker, really. And then not just that, but you will understand throughout this course, you will understand comprehensive understanding of what the Spanish language is about. So you will have a strong confidence about understanding. And if you have 15 things, you are very in a good shape. And also, as I said, your back office of your brain, this supercomputer, is actually already start processing what this Spanish language is about. Seriously, it's to start that process as soon as possible is super important. Okay, so I'm going to introduce myself en español. Me llamo Ryota. Me llamo Ryota. Soy de Japón. Soy de Japón. He vivido en los Estados Unidos por casi 20 años. He vivido en los Estados Unidos por casi 20 años. Tengo unos amigos que hablan español. Tengo unos amigos que hablan español. Estudié español por mi cuenta. Estudié español por mi cuenta. Hola, ¿cómo estás? Me llamo Ryota. ¿Cómo te llamas? Soy de Japón. He vivido en los Estados Unidos por casi 20 años. Vivo en Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Tengo unos amigos que hablan español. Estudié español por mi cuenta. So let's dive into a breakdown of what I just said, because as I promised, I'm going to break down into details that I will explain everything to you so you understand everything what I just said. But again, this is not meant to upset you or being overwhelmed. Just grab one thing that you got and take that with you after the class. The rest of stuff is really purpose to prime your brain, to activate your back office of the brain to start processing. So don't get being overwhelmed, because this is not what it's supposed to do. What it's supposed to do is to let your brain start processing, because the starting point is better to be earlier than later. So let's dive into introduction. So this is the introduction of myself to you, and you can apply this to yourself. So what did I say first? Hola. I said hola. And here I wanted to actually, maybe you can, for example, what I said is this can be your takeaway for today. If you're a super beginner, hola, just one word. This can be your takeaway today. What I'm going to actually help you improve the speed of learning process. I'm gonna start priming your brain with more advanced stuff. So this is all about greetings, greetings, right? And in Spanish, they call it saludos. Basically, hola is meaning really hi, and this is used most often, I would say, I mean, anybody, like from you, your friend, your mom, your, sister, your friends, your coworker, to the Mr. President, right? You can say hola to anybody. And this is a way of greeting. And exclamation mark, it can be just done at the end, typical exclamation mark. But just so you know, the original Spanish language from Spain actually double it. In the beginning, they flipped it, exclamation mark, and then put it on. And this is a official writing of Spanish language. And daily life, you don't need to do that, really. I just wanted to introduce the official writing of Spanish language. The other ways to say greetings could be a good morning, good afternoon, and good night. So that is buenos dias is there is a spell miss. I'm gonna fix it right now. Buenos dias really is a plural form of bueno, good, and dia is a day. So buenos dias is goods days, so to speak, if you direct translate. But this is a way to say it's a nice day, right? And this is exchange oftentimes between people when they encounter each other. Really, in Spanish culture, dia is like it's a day, but they use this in the morning. Not early morning, but throughout maybe to the noon. In the afternoon, they start using buenas tardes. Now, just notice, and this is just to start priming your brain again. I'm gonna repeat this over and over again because this is very important purpose that you need to understand the intent. Otherwise, you're gonna get overwhelmed and then get confused. But buena is for words with the female, right? With female words. So actually, tarde, late afternoon, is really female word. And el dia, is really male words. So this is something that you need to just memorize. And the same goes buenas noches. Noche is night, is a female word. So you will associate with buena. Buena and bueno is both same words but different form. One is male form and one is female form. And so buenos dias, buenas tardes, buenas noches. Let's go to the next. How are you? ¿Cómo estás? Is a very simple way to say how are you. ¿Cómo is how, and estás is estar. It's a verb for be, right? Being. Estás is a present indicative form for you, basically to you. So, ¿cómo estás? Again, this is not something that to get you overwhelmed, but I'm really trying to prime your brain with where we are going. So your brain will slowly, depends on how you are doing, fastly, is start processing the information and be ready to move on as we go forward. And the other ways of saying how are you, and this is another thing about the learning language, beauty of learning language is really understanding other cultures, right? Because we do things differently and we express things different. So how are you is how expressed in English, but there are so many ways to express in other languages and then Spanish as well. So they have a different expression of saying the same thing. So one was ¿Cómo estás? How are you, right? Literally, how are you? But, they have an expression of ¿Cómo andas? Or ¿Cómo te va? ¿Cómo te ha ido? ¿Qué haces? Andar. ¿Cómo andas? Andar is basically verb for walking. So how are you walking? How are you walking? Really asking how are you? And the same goes with ¿Cómo te va? ¿Cómo te va? Is how things going for you, because te is you, objective form of you. So basically, and then va is a form of ir, go. So basically, direct translation is how, ¿cómo? Te is to you, va is goes, things goes. So how things goes. And the same goes with como te ha ido. Ido is more like a different tense, even getting to different tense. So basically, direct translation with how things have gone. So how things been going, right? So and then ¿qué haces? Direct translation is what are you doing? But really asking how are you doing? So the answer to these questions could be ¿Cómo estás? Bien. This is a very typical way to answer bien, which is good. And again, I'm gonna show you this conjugation chart for estar because we just discussed about ¿Cómo estás? And then I'm showing this because typical language school for beginners, they wouldn't even they wouldn't dare show this to students because it's gonna overwhelm students. But I really strongly argue with that method because if you don't show where we going in the beginning, making a roadmap, showing the roadmap for the students, as students move forward, they always going to be presented unknown obstacles in the way, and that's really become a discouragement. So I'd rather want to show you this chart so you know where we are going. And you don't need to understand right now all of them or most of them because you are going to understand. So the key is to look at this chart once in a while and try to figure out, but don't be upset when you don't understand because this is a priming your brain because anybody, even children, they wouldn't understand what adults were saying in the beginning, but over the time, their brain picks things up. So we as an adult have to do the same. But typical language school would do the exact opposite, right? So that's not good. And this is the purpose. So don't be overwhelmed and then just try to pick one. Maybe your today's takeaway is this estas for 2. So that's it. That can be fine. Or maybe it's just hola part, no? That is totally fine. So just find your grab, like a bite for today, each day, right? As we move forward. Understand that I'm presenting all of these information for you in order to activate your back office of your brain. And so the other thing I said was my name is Ryota, right? Me llamo Ryota. Now here I want to teach you something Spanish expression. Basically in Spanish you can say my name is Ryota or my name is Tom or my name is Susan. Just like that way. That will be mi nombre es Ryota. That's the fourth line that we have in the presentation slide. That is exactly direct translation. And then you could actually say in that way. But more typically, more normally, Spanish speaking people says your his name or her name as, for example, me llamo Ryota, right? Me llamo Ryota. What it means really is I call myself Ryota. That's the way they say, they express my name is blah blah blah. They don't really actually uncommon to actually say my name is blah blah blah. They say I call myself blah blah blah. I call myself Tom. I call myself Susan. And so this is kind of a very interesting part of learning other language, don't you think? And here I want to point out, I pronounce me llamo Ryota because I like the way pronounce this way. But oftentimes other people pronounce LL as ya instead of ja. So some people say me llamo Ryota, right? Me llamo Tom, me llamo Susan, me llamo Juan, or something like that. But I like to pronounce me llamo Ryota, ya. And this is the people's preference. And oftentimes they pronounce differently country basis. So Spanish people, like in Spain, Europe, original country, they pronounce me llamo Ryota. But I learned in the way Colombians pronounce, so I really love the sound, so I pronounce me llamo Ryota. Yeah, so 2 ways of pronouncing, and then this goes with Y too, and we'll get into that later. And again, I want to show you the conjugation chart of Llamar. Llamar is really call, like so I call Ryota or they call me Ryota or something like that. So llamar. So you see the red square? How I conjugated llamo from llamar into llamo, because yo is I call myself Ryota, and that's where I come from. And again, don't get overwhelmed with this chart. You just need to start taking this into your brain. That's all. You don't need to understand now. Automatically, your brain will process and understand, give you understanding sometime later. And that's the whole purpose. And what is your name? ¿Cómo te llama? You know, the llamar, right? ¿Cómo is how. So basically, in this case, they oftentimes says ¿Cómo te llama? So basically, they're not saying how you call yourself. Instead, actually, they say how they call you, right? So other people call you. So, ¿Cómo te llama? How do they call you? Then answer could be Me llamo Ryota. But answer will be I call myself Ryota. I guess you could say grammatically Me llama Ryota, but nobody actually says that. So it's the culture. Take it. Like, don't be logical in your language, right? Because the different language, so you have to go with their logic. Or maybe it's not even logic. It's the culture. Now, I'm from Japan. That's what I said. Soy de Japón. Soy de Japón. And okay, so I forgot to tell you, but very interesting, and the beauty of Spanish language is the conjugation. I strongly say the conjugation is the most significant part of Spanish language. Any other language doesn't have, okay? And so basically, in Spanish, by conjugating, you don't even need to say the subject. If I say soy, that means the subject is I. Subject cannot be you or he or she. So by conjugating, they can eliminate actually specifying the subject, who it is. Isn't that beautiful? So here I said soy de Japón really means I am from Japan, because soy means really, soy is the verb of ser. Ser, no? Ser is like another verb for be, but you know, estar is also be, but ser is like permanent, right? I'm Japanese and I cannot not be Japanese, right? So I use ser, right? Instead of estar. Estar is more like a conditional or situational, like for example, I was in certain market yesterday. Then I will use the verb estar because it's temporarily, right? Not like life attachment, right? And so soy de Japón. And Japón is obviously Japan. And again, I'm gonna show you the conjugation chart of ser. But like, you really don't need to be really overwhelmed. You just need to start looking at once in a while so that your brain will process it. And I'm gonna get into how to look at the chart and what the columns and rows means and how you can start looking into deeply in later lessons. So let's dive into further. And I think next sentence was the most difficult, complicated sentence that I put in my introduction for you to take in, and which was I have been living in the United States for almost 20 years. Because this has like a present perfect tense of the verb vivir, live. So I think this is the most complicated one. But like I said, you don't really need to understand right now, but just listen and take it in and let your brain processing those things, because sooner the better start processing, okay? And so, he vivido en los Estados Unidos por casi 20 años, which means really I've been living in the States for almost 20 years. And that is true. I came in the United States in 1999, Omaha, Nebraska. It was winter, February winter. The night I arrived Omaha, it was full of snow, and I got into the dormitory, kind of a studio space that I was going to live for, going to ESL. That's where I started. But anyways, he vivido. So basically, have lived is the vivir. Vivir is the verb for live. He vivido is the present perfect indicative form for yo. Yo is I. Now again, here I pronounce yo, but some other people pronounce yo. So whichever you prefer or you feel, it's not right or wrong. Some part of the world people pronounce differently from each other. And I prefer to pronounce yo. So yo soy de Japón, like before, or yo he vivido en los Estados Unidos por casi 20 años. Okay, so en is really equal to in, so Los Estados Unidos is the United States. Here I want to explain to you, because United States is plural, like many states, right? When you have adjective in English, they only make the form plural for the noun, right? The United States. You only make the form plural for state, right? But in Spanish, everything attached to the word is converted to plural form. So that's why everything from the and United and States, all of them are converted to plural form with S at the end. Los is basically plural form of L, which is equal to English the, and estado is state, so estados, no, like lots of states. But the adjective part, united, also become plural, so los Estados Unidos. So if directly translate, these these United States. Basically, everything needs to have converted to plural form. Otherwise, in Spanish, it sounds wrong. It sounds weird. Por can be, for sometimes by, you have to kind of learn how they use words. And casi is almost. And 20 is 20, number 20. And año is year. So let's put this conjugation chart into your brain. Just send as a signal. You don't need to understand. You don't need to be confused or overwhelmed. But just for you to start the process. And then to start the process is the most important in order to learn language, any language, most effectively. And since I mentioned the number 20, so let's just get to how Spanish says number. So basically, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. That's 1 through 20. Basically, this one, we're gonna get into more about like a dates, number, and how you say time, express time, what time it is, and stuff like that, number related later on in this course. But just to, like, again, you don't need to understand everything. You just pick one for the day, okay? So you've already picked, grab, that's okay. If you haven't, maybe take one of them. Un is 1, dos is 2, 20 is 20. Just to prime you with number 1 to 20, so your back office will start processing, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Now, the other thing I said was vivo en Fort Lauderdale, Florida. It is true, I live in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Basically, this is the different form, tense. It's a present tense, indicative form for yo, I, is vivo. So vivo en Fort Lauderdale, Florida. It's kind of straightforward from what I've been going, what we've been going through, right? And this is, oh, sorry, I skipped the slide. Okay, so the other thing I said was, tengo unos amigos que hablan español. Tengo unos amigos que hablan español. Meaning, I have some friends who speak Spanish. Because tengo is a present indicative form for yo, I, for tener. Tener is a verb for have. Very useful verb. The interesting about Spanish, like some friends, if I want to say, it's unos amigos, right? Amigo is friends. Amigos are plural form. But also, some is very interesting in Spanish, like, uno is one, but make it plural form, unos will be equal to some. It's an interesting expression, right? And that's all very interesting thing about learning language. It's different country, different culture have a different way of expressing things. Que hablan español. Que is really equal to that or who or which in English. So basically explaining what it is that known associated with. So who speak in Spanish. And hablan is another present indicative form for ellos or ellas. And again, here I pronounce ellos or ellas, but some people pronounce ellos, ellas, right? LL pronounce ya or ya. I pronounce ellos, ellas, okay? And that means like multiple him or multiple her, which means they. They speak Spanish. So hablan is a form for them of hablar. And again, I'm gonna just throw in the conjugation chart for hablar because it's really, I cannot stress enough that you need the roadmap for your brain, right? Not for your conscious mind that could get upset with the amount of information presented. That's why I'm explaining the reason behind, so you don't fall into that situation. Only get advantage of accelerated process by priming your brain with the information. Okay, so this is for creating a roadmap for your back end office of your brain, like subconscious part of your brain. So hablar, have this indicative conjugation chart. Now, lastly, I said, and this is actually, I wanted to stress mostly, I studied Spanish by myself. This is what I said. Estudié español por mi cuenta. Number one, this sentence is very interesting. Number one, because of por mi cuenta is a very unique way of Spanish-speaking people express the thing that, something that they did by myself. Because when you directly translate, it is translated to on my account. So that's how Spanish-speaking people express when they say by myself, right? They did it on their own account. Like it's not accounting, but that's how they express. So isn't it interesting? So that's why I wanted to, put this sentence in my introduction part. And also I wanted to say that this is actually true. Truly, I studied Spanish on my own. Oh, okay, so by myself, or you can actually translate to on my own. But I did it myself. I didn't go to any school nor taking any classes. I think back then, because my story is I have struggled for many years to learn English. I mean, it probably, you can say, almost took 20 years. And when I decided to study Spanish, I didn't want to take another 20 years to learn another language. So I had to accelerate it. But the good news was I knew exactly what I needed to do from the struggling experience of learning English. And I knew that if I go to the class, if I follow some teacher, English, not the Spanish teacher, then it's going to be slower track. I kind of knew that in my head. So that's why I took my own way. I didn't take any teacher because I kind of, in the back of my head, I needed to know what exactly I need to do. If I go to any school, language school, or I take a Spanish teacher, they're not gonna teach me that. I knew that. So that's why I wanted to stress that my Spanish success is based on the method that I figured out on my own somehow because of the struggle, like hardship of learning English as a second language.
So that's why I wanted to stress. And again, I want to prime you with the conjugation chart of estudiar is the verb study, and the estudiar, like you see in red, is preterite form of yo. I studied. It's a past tense, okay? So you don't really need to understand everything, but just start priming and let your brain start processing those information, and you're gonna be really surprised and you're gonna be really happy after 15 days of trainings, okay? So this is basically for today all I wanted to say. I'll teach you, stick with them, and follow me for 15 days, and you're gonna be really having a happy result for yourself.
So, for learning any language, practice is the fundamental component that you need to put yourself in, right? It's just like, just learning and thinking in your head wouldn't let you get there. You need to practice. You need to put what you learn into practice. And it's the human psychology, but we can we can work on it, but human psychology actually negatively sort of persuade us not to do it, right? Like, we always think about what other people think because we are social animal, and our psychology is designed to work with that social aspect. So we always consider what other people's opinion and thoughts, and it was so effective probably hundreds ago or thousands ago. Literally, we needed to depend on others in the social situation in order to survive. But today, in modern age, in this 21st century, that psychology is actually preventing you to be succeed on anything. So we need to work on our mindset, and oftentimes people fall into this situation, especially when we are learning languages, which is, oh, I gotta be perfect, I gotta have a perfect pronunciation and grammars in order to actually going to say, hi, my name is Ryota in Spanish. No, that's not true. If you are in that mindset, you will never get it, because it's like a reverse compounding, if you like, financial things, or it's like a negative exponential graph. It's it's just not gonna work. It just stop you, slow down. And so basically you have to understand. The keyword is understand. It's just like with our psychological reaction, we are not being logical, right? All the time. It's not logical not for you to go to practice if you're not perfect, because the practice is all about making things better of imperfection. So basically, go out and speak, try, and enjoy the response that you will get. Sometimes people might laugh at you because it sounds weird for him or her, but it doesn't mean that you're wrong or you are weird or you're funny. I mean, in a negative way. So it's important to go out and practice, and that has to be from day one. So what I want you to give an assignment for you for day one is, today you're gonna start using what you learned, what you got, what you grab, even one word or one phrase or one sentence. Use it, meaning find somebody, maybe you can find Spanish speaking people around you, or even not, then just grab your sister or friends or who doesn't even speak Spanish. Just go to him or her and say the word that you learn. This is not the actual practice of Spanish speaking, right? This is about having breakthrough of your fear of what other people think. Because if you go to your sister or friends who have no idea what you're doing and tell her Spanish word or phrase or sentence, what are they gonna respond? And the key is you don't get bothered with any kind of reaction coming in. It's just the reaction of other people. And so that's my assignment today.